is someone that I did actually know before tonight. The beautiful Bettina Dida is our host for Stories That Stir in the Northern Rivers region. And she just said to me, I feel like you need to know this guy, Kyle. So she connected us, and Kyle and I started chatting on Zoom once every 6 weeks or so. So he moved from Perth to Albany, but he's back in Perth here tonight just in order to share his story with you. So let me tell you a bit about Kyle Spyrides. So he's a best-selling author known for his book Decide Your Destiny, which empowers individuals to navigate the journey towards self-discovery and fulfillment. With over a decade of experience in sales and marketing, Kyle brings experience in guiding others towards their aspirations. Passionate about unlocking inner greatness, he offers personalised support and resilience in overcoming life's challenges. And in hearing his story, you'll understand where he's coming from in how he can help others. So please welcome to the stage, Kyle Spyrides.
Thank you, guys. I'm Greek, that's my background. And where I come from, we would smash plates as pastime. You know, we had a purpose, we knew why we were smashing plates. It was for a certain ceremony. And I found in my own life that sometimes when I would take on something, experiences, emotional experiences, you know, too much of that, I'd smash those plates too hard and I'd break the family heirloom. You know, so that's something I've learned those teenage years, that aggression and that all that emotion involved in that. We've heard a lot of stories today of not really getting in tune with our heart center, understanding our minds, understanding ourselves, understanding some of those repetitive experiences and actions that happen in our lives. So that's a point of reflection, I think, for all of us, and definitely was for me. And in hindsight, you can look back and see where you went wrong. But a lot of it is living through those emotions and trying to, as Steve Jobs put it, join the dots, pointing backwards. So when I first came to Australia from South Africa, I ended up in Bondi Beach, and yeah, not a bad spot to drop into. And we were staying in a lovely Australian house, and I remember one day I was in the garden, playing in the garden, and I saw something sparkling catch my eyes, and it was these 3 beautiful eggs, beautiful cream white eggs, and there was a smashed bird's nest next to it. So obviously the mother was gone, and the eggs had no mother. So I thought, well, it's time for me to be the mother of these 4 eggs. And so I scooped them up, I rolled my shirt up, and I put them in my shirt so that I could carry them inside. And as I walked inside passing from the grass onto the brick patio, splat, one of those eggs fell. And I was just in shock and just beside myself, just really upset. And so I hurried up a little bit more now, hurried along, and I got to the living room and splat, another egg fell. And I went, oh God, no, this can't be happening. And the trauma and everything said, I kept running, and I was crying out, screaming for my parents. And then by the time I got to them, the third and final egg fell on the floor, cover their feet, and I was just shock, horror, shame, and just so upset that I could not carry these eggs to the kitchen, could not complete the job, could not save these eggs' life as a kid. And it's amazing that I was 5 years old, and all these years later, at 31, I still remember that memory. And I guess what I really want to discuss is how life gets a bit messy, and all of our stories, we kind of think, right, it's going to be that Hollywood trailer, I'm going to get married, I'm going to go here, white picket fence, it's going to be, but there's a lot of messy middle. And I think a lot of our story, a lot of who we are, a lot of our strength, a lot of great things can come from that messy middle. However, it's up to us in how we think about that mess and what we can learn from that mess. And 5-year-old, I can still look back at that, and I'm not saying I've got shame and all that, but I can relate to that person. So 11 years later, I found myself in another messy situation. I was 14 years old, and I had decided that enough was enough, and I was going to leave my home, the home that I was living in, and shut the door on that chapter of my life, said no more to this tumultuous teenage years and this conflict that I had with my mother and the fights and the tyrannical sort of behaviour. And I said no more, and closed the door. And as soon as I closed the door, I went, crap, what now? Where do I go? I'm 14 years old. I've got no phone. I've got no money. I've got no seemingly resources to make the next move. And so I feel like in life, what happens is once you make a commitment, you shut that door. You go, no, I'm closing my door on the old life, on the old pain, on the old experiences, closing that door. No sooner than when you do that, an opportunity arises. And in my mind, I went, that's right. My grandparents live, and this is all in Sydney where I was brought up. My grandparents live in Cronulla. So skipped a couple trains, went down to Cronulla, knocked on their door in the middle of the night, and then my grandfather came down the stairs. Don, who's that, Don? And then they opened the door, and they were in their nightgowns, and they were looking confused, trying to piece together who was waking them up at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night. And when they realised who it was and what it was, they opened up their doors, they opened up their hearts, and they opened up their arms, and they welcomed me in. And they ended up, being my not just my parental figures, they ended up being my life mentors that really helped me along. And so that was a really, really important part of my life. And one of the special moments that I can remember to this day was as an 18-year-old out of school, sitting on my grandfather's couch, and he was an architect, so he designed his home, and he had this light just flooding the room. And he turned to me, and he had this big boy screen, and he said, "Decide your destiny." And we weren't talking about anything. I was sitting adjacent to him, and he just said, "Decide your destiny." And I said, "What are you saying, Clyde?" And he said, "Decide your destiny." I said, "What are you talking about, matey?" He said, "Make sure that whatever you do in your life, that you decide your destiny." And as an 18-year-old, that went in one ear and out the other. Played rugby on those weekends, so I got knocked out on the weekend. But it came back to me many, many years later, and that's what I think the true essence of a mentor is, to be that guide that can just say things at the right time. You're not going to be able to guide someone completely in their life, but you can make some of those tweaks, some of those just little nudges along, and it can make all the difference in their journey. So something that my grandmother, who was my other mentor, said to me when she first saw me was, she said that she felt this overwhelming feeling from God. I was walking up the stairs in my grandparents' home. I'd just come from South Africa with my mother, and they were my step grandparents, through my stepfather. And she said she had this overwhelming feeling, this message shoot through her that she was going to be important in my life. And she didn't know what it was, but just a message from God to her that she was going to be important. And then 11 years later, they were really important. They were those people that I could go to and that could raise me for the rest of my life. And I had a beautiful opportunity with them because they weren't parents where, parents can be amazing. Parents can be so helpful and loving. A lot of times parents sometimes they can be seen to listen to respond. And they would just listen to hear, and they weren't to respond to, actually, no, I need to get you back on track with school. They were just there, just listening. And they almost allowed me, my grandmother was a counsellor for 60 years, so I guess she knew what she was doing. But they almost allowed me to just solve my own problems, just talk and share and say, I'd go in there in the morning in the room, and my grandfather, he would get up every morning and make my grandmother breakfast in bed, and she'd be there with her, her platter, and the sun would be coming up the driveway, I'd be looking over the bay, and I'd just be sharing. I'd be saying, look, enough is enough. I want to cut this person out of my life. I feel like they're a shackle pulling me down, and I just like, enough is enough. They listen. They let me start to piece together bits and pieces of my life, and what I want to do and what the next steps are. And another beautiful part of that is that I got to own those decisions. I got to own making some big decisions as a young person. and then that was a very, very important part of my life. But it took me time to get to that, because when I was 14, going to 18, at that time I was starting to listen to grandparents a bit more. My cousin in South Africa, he passed away, and my grandfather in South Africa passed away in the space of 8 months. And so back then I just pushed everything down. I just bottled everything, all the emotions, pushed it down. Thought that was a solution. And I think as we've heard here tonight, sometimes as men we're not as in touch with sharing or finding someone or communicating and trying to find that release valve. So I bottled everything down, and I would go into the dungeon. I called it the dungeon. So I lived under the house, past my grandmother's home counselling room and my grandfather's drawing board, because he was an architect. And there was a little bed up the corner, so I'd get into the house and I'd try as quick as I could just to go to the dungeon. My grandmother would pop up, an 80-year-old, she'd pop up from the couch. I don't know how she did it. And she'd hear me, touch the door, and she'd come, "How was your day?" And ask me all these questions, and just trying to pull that little thread out of me, And once you're in that tunnel, and it's not that you're dark, but you're shutting off from the world. You're cutting away from the world. Sometimes that little thread can just keep you going. And so I kept pushing all that emotion down. By the time I got to share with my grandparents, I was starting to do some healing, and that was really important. But what happened is 2 months after I left school, I found myself in an induced coma. So I had developed a disease, a heart disease, and I had a 3-centimeter bug eating a hole into my heart. And I was put into this coma, and my family were told that I wasn't going to make it through the night, and that I would, that I'd most likely pass away. And I really truly believe, it's my belief, but like pushing all that emotion down, not finding a release valve, funnily enough, it ended up being a bug eating a hole into my heart on my back. And so that had to go through that process. I spent 6 weeks in the hospital, healed myself naturally, did this cleanse, guided by my stepfather, flew over from Ireland, and then a year later went and had open heart surgery. And through this time, you had to learn a lot about yourself, your soul, your spirit, who you are. You're shedding a lot of the physical. You're shedding a lot of, what you know or what you perceive as who you are. And so then, one of the times that I really saw self-love come through for me was I was in the hospital, and this old man passed me and said, "Oh, I also thought I was invincible when I was your age." And I just remember hearing that and just so strong my mind going, like, no, that's wrong. Like, I'm an invincible spiritual being. This is just the body that I'm inhabiting at this moment, and it's sick at this moment. I'm doing the best I can with it at this moment, but no, you're wrong. I just knew it clear as day, and that was, your intuition, your knowing, you following that is self-love, because there's going to be so many voices out there in the world. There's going to be so many people telling you other things. It's going to be, you just flick up something on your phone and you'll get 100 people trying to pull you different ways. And you go, I never was thinking about this. I was never worrying about this. I never was emotionally involved in this, but now I'm 3 different ways. I don't know if I'm up or down or going which way I'm going, but I'm getting pulled in all sorts of ways. And so really being true to who you are and what you believe in your own faith, I think is really, really important. So for me, that's been something that has really guided me throughout my life. So one of the other things that I think is really important in terms of self-love is considering that your heartbeat shows up for you. And through my journey, it wasn't just the open heart surgery that prepared. It was every time I had surgery, I'd have to have another surgery and another complication. And so from 18 to what I am now, I had to build mental resilience, but it's the continual reminder of my heart showing up for myself. And just yesterday, came up for a beautiful event that Monica put on, and went for hopefully a half an hour consultation. Ended up being 5.5 hours of assessments. I'm going to have another heart surgery in a month's time. So it's my faith, knowing that my heart is still showing up, and in my faith, in my mind, God and Jesus and whoever I believe is still showing up for me. For whatever reason that is, I've got to work through that, and I've got to find out the mission that I'm here for. And I think we can all look at that in our own life. No matter what we're going through, hey, I'm still here for something. I'm still here for something. What good can I do? Who can I help? What can I change? How can I impact? How can I cause someone love? How can I show appreciation for all my friends? I think that's the really important to try to see. Thank you.
And I love that story, and you took us through so much of your journey and where you get your faith from, and how you just carry on and keep showing up for yourself and other people. But what I love the most about your story is that reference to your heart, because it's with our heart that we have the frequency of love, connection, bonding, of, love is the highest frequency, love and gratitude. So, and it's there. Like, most of us take for granted that our heart's just beating.